All right, guys, welcome back to the Laydown Podcast. It's been a while since we've done one of these, but we are back, and Lenny and myself, we're going to be discussing today in a completely original idea, totally wasn't stolen from Mitch earlier. We're going to discuss who can potentially win the Super Bowl. Who are the teams that have a shot at winning it? Who are the teams that entering the 2022 NFL season we can see lifting that Lombardi trophy in February? Lenny, are you excited for this?
I haven't talked about football in a large concept like this in a while. So
It seems like
I
you've been
actually
doing a lot
am.
of basketball recently, right?
Yeah, I know. It's been a lot of basketball, a lot of just Kevin Durant stuff. I'm DeAndre Ayton. I'm just glad to get back to football. How many weeks till preseason? It's like 4 or 2, 3. No,
When does the preseason start?
it's soon. It's very soon. It's sooner than we think.
August 4th. So that is exactly that's two weeks,
Dang,
essentially.
2 weeks. Dude, 2
Yeah,
weeks.
we're getting so
football.
August is typically like get back to football month, and then September is predictions that season starts. So we'll have
plays the first game.
Well, the
Like the what was it? The Hall
date
of
of
Fame
the first game.
Raiders. No, Raiders play Hall of Fame game.
Let me
I'm
check.
excited for that. You get to see
Hall
some
of Fame
rookies.
It's Raiders Jags.
Hopefully, what if Adams played just for
Anyway,
reason?
this is completely.
Oh, sorry.
So yeah, the first team that Lenny and myself can see winning the Super Bowl. And before we get into that quickly, go check out our social medias down below in the description and subscribe to this channel for more content and for more podcast episodes. But yeah, the first team that is the current Super Bowl favorites on PointsBet, I'm going to use that for the odds. The Bills, the Buffalo Bills, are plus 650 to win the Super Bowl. Lenny, what do you think of this team? Can you see them winning the Super Bowl? Do they have a shot?
I feel like it's such a cop out just to say the Bills are going to win the AFC at this point, but it's like I'm not like saying it's shut in case because clearly it's never that in the NFL. It's never just shut in case. But if there's a favorite, it's definitely the Bills right now, man. I mean, on the roster, the only thing they really downgraded was offensive coordinator. Maybe we don't know how good Ken Dorsey's going to be, but they added a huge, big time player in Von Miller on defense, and you saw in the playoff game against the Chiefs, they could get no pressure, man. I mean, that was a big and they're going to get it's that corner. What was it called? How did I forget? Tre'Davious White. No, they're going to get Tre'Davious White back.
Yeah,
They didn't even have for the playoffs. They didn't even have Tre'Davious White, and they're going to have Von Miller, and it's just hard to see this team taking a step back. It's hard to see this team not at least being in contention. With Josh, I haven't even mentioned Josh Allen yet. Stephon Diggs. I mean, it's a loaded roster.
Yeah, so I can't really see a scenario in which they take a step back, like record-wise. Because last season, they went 11-6. And given the statistics they compiled, statistically, they were the best team in football.
They were great on both sides of the ball.
It was hard for them to go 11-6 last year. They lost 5 one-score games. That's probably not going to happen this year. I'm just going to be honest. I see this team as winning like 13, 14 games this year. I think they have the best playmaker at the quarterback position. I think they have a guy that may well win an MVP this season in Josh Allen. I think the run game has gotten deeper with James Cook. They added a receiving element there with him. The receiving core is where I think they could potentially get to the next level because they added Jamison Crowder, who I like a lot in the slot. They also have one of Davis and McKenzie has to break out at some point, right?
They did in the playoff. It feels like they're having
Davis did in the playoff.
We just need the consistency. We just need the consistency with these players. But
I think one of them's going to do it this year. If I were to bet money, it'd probably be Davis, but
probably
I think one of them's going to do it.
One of them's going to make a fantasy owner very happy.
Dawson Knox is a sneaky good tight end who I think is only getting better.
OJ Howard could be something too.
We'll see with him. I don't have high hope.
We'll see.
But probably the weakness of the team is the offensive line. And it's not a bad offensive line. These guys have played it for a decent amount of time together. They did add Roger Saffold, who is a very good run blocker. But it's not a great unit. I think I ranked it 18th. It's not a great unit. It's not an outright strength like most of the rest of the roster is. I will say for Ken Dorsey, he has been in the system for a while. They have liked what they've seen from him so far in camp. And he was the quarterback's coach for the Panthers during some of Cam Newton's best seasons, including his MVP season, when he basically ran over the league. So with an upgraded run blocking offensive line plus Josh Allen, who is kind of built like Cam Newton was, I could see
Another
this
year of
run game
consistency.
actually being really good this season with the quarterback run implemented heavily into it as it already is with Ken Dorsey. So the offense is going to be awesome. I ranked it fifth. The defense is where I think this team statistically may not be as good, but I think talent-wise got better. I think
Yes.
Von Miller is an alpha pass rusher. He's
An
something
alpha pass rush. I like that. I like that. He is an alpha
he's
pass
something they
rusher.
really could have used last year against the Chiefs. They added Daquan Jones for
Mhm.
run defense. That'll help. They have already Ed Oliver, Gregory Rousseau, a pretty deep defensive line. The linebacker core, if Tremaine Edmonds has a bounce back year, then they're really set there. But as of now, they're just pretty much
I
set.
mean, yeah, secondary, they're set too.
Secondary is awesome.
It's hard to find
They have a
the
really good
clear hole
coaching
on this team,
staff.
you know?
They have a great head coach. They have a great defensive coordinator. I think they're the best team in the league right now. I think that's fair to say. So
I
yeah,
think when you look at it consistency wise, when you look at roster wise, it's hard to say that. It's hard to start to not say that at this point. They've proven it, and they've proven it. The only thing they haven't proven yet is that they can get to the Super Bowl. But I'm not like tripping about that because it's only
and
been about 3 years in this
the
whole thing.
internal factors with this team, they're probably going to be the most pissed team in the league this year, just because of how
That's a
last year
good factor.
ended. So
Yes. Oh my God, Josh Allen, bro.
all right, the
Tweeting it.
next team is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are currently plus 700
The
on
Tom
points
Brady
bet
team.
to
I'm
win
so
the Super
surprised.
Bowl. They have some dude at quarterback. I think his name's Brady, Tom Brady, right?
Thomas
Uh,
Edward.
he seems all right. He seems like okay. He seems like
I don't
he's
know. I didn't like him coming out of
whole Super
college.
Bowl thing. Um, yeah, Lenny, what do you think of this team?
I mean, look, the problems the Bucks had last year were largely outside of their roster. They were an older team last year, and they've gotten a little bit younger. They've added that who was it that one James Bradbury, I think they added in the offseason at corner.
Logan
Um,
Ryan, I think.
Logan Ryan. I knew it was a
Yeah.
Giants cornerback they added. Anyway, their biggest issue last year was their cornerback room and their receiving room just getting injured. On quite honestly, they had a lot of injuries last year. And as a Niners fan, if your biggest problem is injuries, as long as you're healthy, man, you're still contenders. And to me, the Bucks are still contending because they have Tom Brady. They have a great offensive line still. They still have great weapons. I mean, the list is it's still as good as it was before. It just last year they had a lot of injuries, and people seem to forget that this team is still led by Tom freaking Brady. But on the roster, Vita Vea, I mean, that D line is still pretty good. Shaq Barrett, a linebacker, Devin White's taking a step back, but there's no reason for me to believe that he won't be like a complete liability on the team. He's a linebacker. It's not like the biggest deal in the world anyway. Anyway, they have a young secondary. I love Antoine Winfield. I mean, like, the coaching too. I mean, you could say Bruce Arians leaving is a big deal, but I just don't think it's that big a deal. I
Does it
think
help or hurt?
I don't know that answer to that question, but it could go either way, honestly. Who's Brian Leftwich, man?
Byron Leftwich is the
I
offensive
really
coordinator.
like what he's done with this offense.
Me
Honestly,
too.
like as it's developed with Brady, they've developed a lot more of like they've used what Brady's good at and combined it with what Bruce Arians likes to do, and it's been this just really nice, efficient offense. I don't know. Anyway, it's hard to find a clear hole. Similar to the Bills, it's like where's like the clear hole? There isn't a huge one, and in football, that's huge to not have a clear weakness. But
I think
yeah,
when it comes to top end talent, this might be my pick for the best team in the league.
probably.
Just in terms of who has the most elite players in the NFL, it's probably the Bucs, maybe the Rams, maybe the Bills. But I mean, the Bucs are right up there. You look at Brady, who I still think is the best quarterback in the league.
I'm not
They've
fighting
got
on them.
a decent running back room. The receiver room, it's not what it was when AB was there, and they will miss Godwin for the first couple games, most likely. But it's still, when Godwin gets back, Evans, Godwin, Gage, that's more than enough to be good at receiver.
I forgot to mention Gronk too. He left this offseason.
Yeah,
He might come back, but
I'll get
that still
to.
isn't great.
I mean, the tight end room isn't very good. Cam Brates has been a solid player in the past. Wasn't last year. We'll see what he can do this year as the featured tight end in the offense. The offensive line, it's different, but it's not necessarily worse. They were the
No.
best offensive line in the league last year. They'll probably still be top three. I'm just going to be honest. Like, this Donovan Smith is a really good left tackle. Tristan Wirfs is the best
Mhm.
tackle, I would say, in football with Trent Williams. Shaq Mason's an awesome right guard. Ryan Jensen's an awesome center. Stinney is the only somewhat question mark on this line. But
The rest of the line will elevate it.
when he played in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, he held his own against Chris Jones and company. So, I mean, the offense should be top three. I mean, I'll just say that. I don't think it's as strong as it's been in the last 2 years, but it's still strong enough to be arguably the best of football. Defensively is where I think the team could take a jump. Last year, I thought, even though their stats were pretty good, I thought they feasted a lot on really bad offenses for parts of the year. And
The NFC
against
South.
every good offense they played, especially the Rams, they got kind of exposed. But they've gotten younger on that side of the ball, so that's where I could see some improvement. Joe Tryon is going to be better than Pierre Paul was for this team last year.
Mm-hmm.
Shaq Barrett's still amazing. He's in his prime. Vita Vea is awesome. They added Akeem Hicks. They have Nunez Roches in the interior defensive
They
line.
did add Akeem Hicks, man. Come on, how come you don't think this team is good? I'm sorry, I forgot about Akeem Hicks, bro.
They
That was
did
such a
add
lot.
in Logan Hall in the
Oh,
draft
geez.
as well. Levante David's still one of the best linebackers in the league. Devin White, I'll say this, I'm more on the positive end rather than I think you were a little bit on the negative with him. He was really good in 2020. Last year
Yeah,
he
he
had
was
the
good.
worst year of his career. I don't think that's going to happen again. I can't see him being that bad again because he was bad last season, Lenny. He was
It's
genuinely
hard to
like
believe he gets
he was a
worse than that.
liability on the field. It's hard for me to see that happening again. The secondary, I think, is really good. Quietly, I think Dean and Davis, I've been saying it for a couple of years, but I think really now they're a top duo. Logan Ryan was a good add for depth at safety. They've still got Winfield and Edwards. They did add Keanu O'Neal as kind of a hybrid safety linebacker. Sean
Yeah.
Murphy Bunting's still there as well. This team is really good. This
Yes,
team
it's
is
very
really
good.
good. The questions I would have with them, if I were to play devil's advocate, would be first of all, they are inserting a new head coach, Todd Bowles, who has coached in this NFL before, but still hard to win a Super Bowl when it's your first year. So there's always that factor to it.
Hasn't really done
But
that yet.
more so for me, it's the motivation and like the mentality with the Bucs, and that's weird to say considering it's a Tom Brady team. But Tom Brady is best when he's doubted, I think. You look at almost every Super Bowl he's won has come in years where at one point or another he was doubted for one reason or another. I don't really get that vibe from Tom Brady anymore. I think it's pretty clearly going to be his last season in the league. And
No,
I just, he doesn't seem as, I don't even want to say locked in. I'm going to say, I don't think he's quite as focused.
oh,
I'm
okay.
serious. I'm serious when I say this. I don't get the vibe from him that he's quite as focused this season as he's been every other season. I don't.
No, I ever since he's been to Tampa Bay, it just feels like what in New England.
I think the first year he was completely locked in at Tampa Bay. And the
No,
last 2 years, I don't
he
think
was in the freaking like the park practicing.
yeah.
I remember
But
at
the
the COVID
last two
season.
years, I don't think he has been as much.
I mean, okay. Let me specify 2021 then, because you're right
Yeah.
about 2020. 2021, ever when he won that ring, like it just
Didn't
felt
he
like
throw
he
the
was just like,
Lombardi
all
down
right,
the field or whatever?
I'm gonna hang out with my buddy Gronk. I'm just gonna relax and just let the Tampa Bay. Like I feel like in New England, Belichick always kept them on a leash. Like it was always like, or just the Patriots organization. I'm not gonna say specifically Belichick because that's probably not true. Anyway, it was always like, yeah, but you could win another ring. You could win another ring. That was the vibe I felt like with Brady. Like that was always going through his head. But as soon as he won the one in Tampa, it was like,
And Boston itself is a really smart academic city. With everything there, MIT, Harvard, all the colleges there up in the
okay.
Northeast. Tampa Bay is a party relaxing city. I'll just say that. Did you see the Fournette report the other day?
Oh my god, dude. 270, bro.
You think 2015 Tom Brady would tolerate that?
No, of course not.
That's what I'm saying about
You
this
think Belichick
team.
would tolerate that?
I
Oh my
don't
god.
think that happens. And he just lost Gronk, who's his partner and best friend in life. So
Yeah.
I'm not completely sure if this team is completely locked in and focused and committed as they once were, which is lowered me a touch on them just because I feel like you need to be completely locked in to win a Super Bowl. You can't
I agree.
half-ass your way to a Super Bowl. Um, but they still have the talent to do it. So,
Yes, they still have,
and they still have Tom Brady.
and they still have Tom Brady.
All right, the next team is at plus 1,000 to win the Super Bowl. The Kansas City Chiefs are currently third in odds, Lenny, as the division
I feel like
rival. I'll
that's
let
too
you start.
high, man. Ah,
Do
like
you think they could win the Super Bowl in 2022?
I think it's possible. I'm not gonna just disregard the Chiefs because that's stupid. I never like want to just disregard a team whenever it makes changes. I like obviously I'm not as high as they were last year or even the year before that because Adoy they lost Tyrann
This
Matthew.
on paper
Uh,
is their worst roster in the Mahomes era.
yes, it there very much is. I mean, you lost a secondary alone. It wasn't even that good last year. You lose Tyrann Matthew and Javarius Ward on defense. I mean, that's huge. And on offense, you lose Tyreek freaking Hill. Like those are big losses. But I'm not like trying. I'm not going to underestimate this coaching staff because on both sides of the ball, I think they're very sound coaching wise, and I think Andy Reid is probably maybe the best offensive coordinator in the league. I don't know. He's in that conversation at the very least. He's so creative with what he does, Mahomes. And I think I've said this a couple times, but the offense was a vertical, like we're gonna go to downfield as much as possible kind of offense. Now they got Juju Smith and they're gonna and Travis Kelsey, and they're gonna operate more as a Tom Brady quick RPO kind of team. I think that's the transition we're going to see here. And long term, this is going to be good for Mahomes because he, like, mentally, he's never been like the greatest quarterback. And I think that kind of showed last year when they started throwing cover two at him when it wasn't just easy looks on the outside one on one with Tyreek Hill in a corner. So I think throughout the year, this offense is going to get slowly better. And when you have a great offensive line, Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelsey, Andy Reid, you're bound to be at least a good offense. At the bottom line, this is going to be a good offense, and I think it's going to get better throughout the year. So when it gets to playoff time, and I know they have playoff experience because they've been deep the last 3 years now, they could totally take another jump. I'm not going to put that past them. And on defense, they added a lot of young talent. I'm not expecting these players to just immediately fill in and just like ball out. But we've seen that this team could operate with not a great defense. What's the name of the
Steve Spagnuolo.
Spagnolo? That's right. His
Yeah.
name's super stupid. That's what Spagnolo. He's operated with not great talent and made the best out of it. So I think it's going to be when come playoff time because they're going to probably make the playoffs. It's going to be good enough to do something. It's a long shot. I think at this point, but there's clearly an angle for them to do something to this year.
Yeah, so I think the Chiefs long term are better for what they did
Yeah, I agree on
because I'm going to be honest, before the Tyreek Hill trade, their roster was even worse than it is right now.
that.
Like it was
Yes,
a
yeah.
couple really awesome players and then like genuinely bad players, Lenny. Um,
And they had
and so
Melvin
they got a
Gordon.
bunch of picks. They've used some of them. They've added some more depth. So in ways, the roster has improved in spots. Like their offensive line's one of the 7 best in the league. It's awesome. They
Yes.
have the best tight ends in the league. They have one of the best, if not the best, quarterbacks in the league. They have one of the best, if not the best, head coaches in the league. They still have that. They still have Chris Jones. Um, the secondary is younger and probably worse, but they did add Cook and McDuffie in the draft, who I both like. At linebacker, Chanel gives them some more depth and versatility, but that's still somewhat of a position of concern. The defensive line, they did add George Karlaftis, who I like. But again, outside of Jones, they still have to establish someone that can consistently rush the passer, and they need to be more consistent in run defense.
Mhm.
The receiver position, I actually like a little bit more than some other people because they
Me
still have
too.
they
It's not
still have
that
some
bad.
speed there. They still have MVS and Hardman. They have Juju Smith-Schuster, who's a solid NFL player, even though he's, say what you want about him, he's a solid NFL player.
When he's not the main target in the offense, we've seen that he's been at least good. He's been all
And
right.
and Sky Moore is a promising receiver as well. And in an Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy offense, they're going to have the best possible looks, I guess. It's kind of like
Mhm.
basketball when you're playing with Steph Curry. You're in the best situation possible to succeed, so you should be able to succeed, and I'm expecting these guys to play at 95% of their ability. So could I see the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl? Yes. If I were to pick today, would I pick them? Probably not, just because I
No,
think
probably not.
there's more overall complete teams in the AFC and the NFL. I think what Mitch said about their team last year applies a little more this year because they've lost some of that star power. But I'm still not going to completely rule out Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid.
I think it's foolish. I think it's like it's just come on, man. They're such a good duo, and the offense is still really talented.
They're still the
I
best quarterback coach combo in the NFL.
yes, I would agree on that. I would. Yeah, I would. I've just thought about it. Maybe Sean McVay, Stafford.
Maybe
Maybe
that's the only one
we'll have to see after this year. Just
we
because they
can
won
say
the
it.
Super Bowl, I'm like thinking about it. But anyway,
All right, the next team currently plus 1,100 on PointsBet. The
they're really
Green
the
Bay
fourth.
Packers to win
Oh,
the Super
geez.
Bowl right now.
I don't like that. I don't like that they're that high.
Lenny, can you see a scenario they win it? They haven't been able to the last couple of years.
See, look, with the Chiefs, it's a little different with the way I'm thinking about it, is because the Chiefs, like, they've been to the Super Bowl in 2 years, and this is
They should
still
have
a
made it
very
last
creative,
year.
and they should have made it last year. With the Packers, it's just been like you got worse, and you haven't done anything in so long. It's like your situation got harder, and you want me to think that you're still gonna like okay. Devontae Adams leaving is huge. I mean, I don't think anyone's ever going to argue that it wasn't a big deal. I don't even think Packers fans are going to not argue that. But uh, offensively, it's just like I look at it and I'm
It's
like,
fair.
I mean, at least with the Chiefs, they have two players that I could see being
They
like
have guys
pretty
you
good.
recognize.
Yeah, I look at the Packers. I'm like Christian Watson could maybe do something.
So
Mitch
the
made a video
receivers
about
is
him.
currently Christian Watson, Sammy Watkins, Alan Lazard, Randall Cobb, Amari Rogers, Romeo Doubs.
I feel like Rodgers was just like, give me players that are cool with me. I really don't care how good they play. I just want to
When
have a receiver.
Rogers starts 30 touchdowns and like 6 picks with these guys,
Oh my god, Twitter's gonna go crazy. Anyway, defensively is where this is the team. If they're gonna do anything, it's defensively. This is
I agree.
actually a very good defense. Like if I'm looking at it, every single level, they are like very good. Outside of maybe linebacker, which they still have Devondre Campbell, I'm like, wow, this is just a very good defense. Up front, I mean, you have Smith. You have a lot of good. How am I blanking on defensive linemen on the Packers? Anyway, you have Devondre Campbell, like I mentioned. You have on
Jair
the outside,
Alexander,
Eric
Juju
Stokes
Amos,
had a great rookie season.
Kenny Clark.
Kenny Clark. Yeah, that's yeah. All right, anyway, you're gonna get Jair Alexander back after his injury, which by the way, it's one of the best corners in football. Their safety core is great. I mean, top to bottom, this is a great defense. I just think it's very good. They can attack at the run and they can attack the pass, both equally great. And if this offense is going to do anything, it's going to be off of the opportunities the defense gives them. It's going to be a very run the ball offense, I think, and RPO play action, which they've been for a while, but it's going to be even more now that the defense is, which it's been a long time since we've been hyping up the Packers defense. I'm just saying that.
No, I think this could be the best Packers defense of Aaron Rodgers' tenure there, at least
Too
since
bad his receivers
2010.
don't.
I'm sure he'd miss a Greg Jennings right about now, but Um, I think the offense is still going to be good because they've got one of the best running back duos in the league. They have the back-to-back MVP. They have an elite offensive line, I think. They have one of the best schemers in the NFL in Matt LaFleur. So they're still really set everywhere. They even get Robert Tonyan back, which does help
It does.
at tight ends. But the receiver room is the huge concern because Randall Cobb is old. Sammy Watkins is old and injury prone. Christian Watson I like, but we have completely no evidence. Alan Lazard, we have evidence of him being a mid-tier starter. What else? Amari Rogers was bad last season.
Oh
So,
yeah.
like,
The other Rodgers.
the receiver room, it just isn't very promising to me outside of Christian Watson. If Christian Watson is a stud, then this offense is legit going to be pretty good. But if he's not, he's
Yeah.
going to be all right.
Then Mitch can get like another 100,000.
I agree with you on the defense. As I said, I think it could be the best in the NFL. If you wanted to argue, they're the best starting overall lineup in the NFL in terms of the 11 guys that will start. I would not fight you on that because I think they're that talented. I even think their scheme is better than it was with Mike Pettin, but now with Joe Barry. They're not totally deep, but in terms of just starting lineups, so they're the best or one of the best. So, yeah, I would give the Packers a slight shot just because I have that much respect for Rodgers, especially now with the defense. But I wouldn't give them a huge like. Would you say the Packers have a better shot than the Chiefs right now?
I think if the AFC is as good as we think it is, I'm gonna say
Yeah,
probably. I think there's about 3 or 4 teams that could really give the Packers trouble in the playoffs.
I think anyone could. Anyone with a good run defense, and
Mhm.
an offense that is like balanced. That I think they could genuinely give Green Bay issues in
No,
the
that's a
NFC.
fair point. That's a fair point. They're gonna play very
I
big.
would say they have a better shot than the Chiefs just because the conference overall is weaker. But
Mhm. Yeah,
all right, next team, defending Super Bowl champion Los Angeles
the
Rams.
Rams.
We're currently plus 1,100. Same odds as the Green Bay Packers on points bet. Um, it's safe to say the Rams can do it again, right? Not saying they necessarily will, but they can.
We do this every year. Yes, the Super Bowl champions have a chance to win the Super Bowl after they just won the Super Bowl. Obviously, concerns of the Super Bowl hangover exist. It's not a. It's like
Isn't
I think
that
a
usually
whole.
more with the winner than the loser than the winner though?
It's
Typically,
kind of both. So like when you win, you kind of get this. There's like this attitude of like, yeah,
I guess
we're
when you win,
we're
it's
great. All right,
complacency, and when you lose, there's the target on your back.
exactly. There's both. There's both. Exactly. Anyway, the Rams are weird because they lost some starters on offense, and I don't see a lot of people talking about just the lack of. I get the more change that's happening now because you lose OBJ, right? You lose Robert Woods, you lose
For now,
your starting left tackle the last like couple of years, who's been great. I think
Andrew
they
Norwell.
lost their center too, Andrew Norwell. Wait, no, he wasn't center. He was playing guard. Anyway, that's 4 or 5 starters right there that are not or that were
They lost
not starting.
Corbett, who is the right guard.
That's right, Corbett. Anyway, that's 4 or 5 starters right there that are being replaced. But here's the thing: on offensive line, I think they did a good enough job at replacing their guy. But they got Allen Robinson, and did they get someone else? No, they're just going to bump up
That's
Van
basically it.
Jefferson. But
Yeah.
still, on offense, I don't know if they're going to take a jump or they're going to stay the same or going low because I don't know. I think it's a concern. I'm not super concerned about it, but still, like it's still a wild card. But on defense, I mean, you added Bobby Wagner, which is like, can you like stop, please, Rams, just like buying everybody? Like I
Do
would.
they have like a bank in Switzerland that gives them more cap space?
It's like
I see
Wolf
that
of
they
Wall
play on
Street.
a
It's Wolf of
different
Wall Street.
field than the rest of the NFL.
Um, yeah, it's just not. And then they gave Aaron Donald the extension. Anyway,
I mean, they were going to always do that.
it's similar to the offense where you have starters leaving, but you're replacing that with more talent. I don't know. It's weird. It's kind of, you know what I'm trying to say? It's kind of like,
Yeah,
well,
it's like they're different, but they're not necessarily better or worse.
change can be better for a team returning from the Super Bowl because they have to beat a different defense and offense now. It's not going to be the same thing. But
I like some of the value adds and replacements they had this season. There's this off season. I don't think they're as talented as they were last season because last year I thought they were the best roster in the NFL, at least them or Tampa
probably
Bay. Um, they're one of them this year. I don't know if they're necessarily as good though. They probably aren't. I don't think their offensive line. I thought their offensive line last year was awesome, especially in pass
they did
protection.
have a very good.
I don't think it's as good this year without Whitworth. I don't think it is as good this year without Corbett. I do think it'll still be good because they still have Sean McVay, which helps their offensive line immensely. And they've still got some of the other core pieces like Habenstein returns, Allen returns, Edwards returns. Noteboom is a player that played for them last season as kind of the sixth guy on the offensive line. He came in for Whitworth for that Tampa Bay game and did pretty well. So it'll still be good, but a regression is expected for them.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't really touch on the running back situation because they do lose Sony Michel.
Who cares? The running backs.
Cam Akers comes back. Darrell Henderson is still there. That's not a bad duo. If Akers is back to 2020 form, then I think the play action with this team could be really scary. I think the receiver position, I'm not a huge Allen Robinson guy at this point, but he still should be good enough to as a number two. He'll be better in that role. Cooper Kupp, I think is the best receiver in the
Yeah, I
league.
didn't even mention Cooper Kupp.
And I think the thing that I think saves the offense, number one, I think McVay is the best coach in the league, which I'll get to in a later video. Not Shanahan, sorry, Mitch. But Matt Stafford, I think, is going to have the best season of his career. I think he'll be in the MVP race this year. He was for a while last season. People forget. But
he was actually
this year, I think there will not be. He won't lead the league in interceptions again or be tied for the league lead in picks this year. That's not going to happen. I think he'll have the best year of his career. So with elite quarterback play, I still think they'll be a top 5 offense. Defensively, Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, now Bobby Wagner, that base on itself is enough to be like a top 15 defense in today's NFL.
Assuming that everyone else is starting caliber.
They have some other guys that I like Greg Gaines and Ashawn Robinson. I thought were animals in the playoffs last year. You could not run the ball on this team. Leonard Floyd is good. The rest of the guys are kind of whatever. I think, they added a little bit of depth at corner in the draft, but it's still not great. It's nothing special. They added Troy Hill back, which I liked at nickelback. So the defense in general is probably a top 10 unit just off of the star power and some of the improved depth. So overall, yeah, this team can definitely win the Super Bowl. You didn't really touch on the O'Connell loss either. I don't know how much that'll affect them, but it's still McVay. So
yeah, you're right. I don't think it's going to be that big a deal.
I still think they have probably as good a shot as anybody bar the Bills in the league right now.
They're a little bit more of a wild card than most Super Bowl post teams than I've seen. That's a little bit well, it could go two different ways. There's two streets I could see this going. The new replacements don't work out, and then, but usually,
I think they have an inherently higher floor because of their coach and quarterback. But yeah, they're probably not as strong of a champion as others have been. I don't think they're as good as last year's Bucs were. The Chargers are the next team. The other
Chargers
at plus 1,600 on PointsBet currently to win the Super Bowl. Lenny, how do you feel about now 2 of your division rivals and with the Raiders?
I don't feel good about it, if that's what you want me to say. I mean, look, man, when you have Justin Herbert and you have as talented of an offense as they have, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Mike Lombardi. Or is it Mike? Yeah, it's Mike Lombardi.
Joe Lombardi.
Is it Joe Lombardi? Bro, there's too many Lombardis, I swear. Anyway.
Vince, Mike.
There are a lot of Lombardi.
Yeah.
Anyway, this offense is going to be minimum top 10, like top 5. Every single position, they have a good player and they have a contributing player. Maybe tight end is a little iffy. I mean, fullback, I guess you can say, but offensive line is very good. Yeah, across the board, except for the right side. The right side's a little off. It's a little, but anyway, receiving. I'm not a huge fan of Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, but they're still quality receivers. They're not bad at any measure. I just think maybe they're a little overrated, but that's not a huge deal. You have Austin Eckler in the backfield, and of course you have Justin Herbert, who's going to elevate all his talent even more. And on defense, that was their big issue last year, man. Like defensively, they could not stop the run whatsoever. It was a mess. And you know who they got? They got, some guy named Khalil Mack, who's like at minimum an elite run defender. So yeah, he's all right. As a Raiders fan, Anyway, they added that D tackle from the Rams, who is pretty good in the run game as well.
Sebastian Joseph Day.
Sebastian Joseph Day, which I think was an underrated move. Generally, he's a good run defender, and that's what they need right now. They need a guy who could rotate in on rundowns, and to have Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, and Noteboom right there as your starting rotational line. I mean, that's a huge upgrade over last year. You're going to have J.C. Jackson now, Asante Samuel Jr., Derwin James. I mean, on defense, if you're just looking at names. Like, this is just, the potential sky high here. It's going to take a little bit for them to, get to the point where the names match how good they are because, obviously there's a lot of new names and they haven't played in the scheme. But if they can play the potential, this is a potential top 5 defense and a potential top 5 offense. It's their ceiling is bigger than anyone.
This is the best team they've had, I think, since 2006.
The 2006 Chargers. Oh my god.
I'll put it like this: their offense will get them to the playoffs. If they make the Super Bowl, it will be because of their defense.
I totally agree. That's a great take.
I think I ranked their offense 12th only because I'm a bit hesitant on their scheme right now, and that's a big thing for me. But that might have been harsh, honestly. Because Justin Herbert is awesome. He may win MVP this year. Austin Eckler is really good. Their receiving core is pretty good. I like Guyton for them, too, who's a pretty good deep threat.
Yeah, he's a good enough three.
And even Josh Palmer isn't a bad player. Of course, Allen and Williams are good. Their offensive line outside of right tackle with Pipkins there. But, Slater, Filer, and Lindsley are good to good plus to elite players. Zion Johnson, I really like who they added in the draft at right guard. They got Gerald Everett at tight ends from Seattle. So their offense is going to be really good this year. Defensively is where I could see them struggling more in the regular season. But again, I think if they make the Super Bowl, it will be because of this unit's improvement. Sebastian Joseph Day added in the interior defensive line. He'll help a lot in the run defense that they were so bad at last season. That was one of their Achilles heels. Yes, Khalil Mack as a secondary edge rusher.
That's ridiculous.
He's still one of the 6 or 7 best edge players in the NFL, I think. And
I agree. It's just
a secondary guy. He's going to help in run defense. He's going to help feasting on weaker tackle matchups. He's going to be what Von Miller was to Aaron Donald for this team. He's going to be that. Mm-hmm. Their linebacker duo of Murray and Tranquil, I think, has promise. I'm not saying it's awesome, but it has promise. J.C. Jackson is one of the better corners in the NFL. Asante Samuel Jr. has a lot of potential. Even Bryce Callahan from Denver didn't have his best year last year. He's shown promise in the slot position. Derwin James might be the best safety in the NFL. And I like Brandon Staley. I do. I think he is a good coach. For all of his 4th down decision critics, I do think he's pretty good.
He got us into the playoffs. I love that guy.
And their coordinators should be better in their second years. So, yeah, I think this team can definitely win the Super Bowl. I think they're the second best team in the AFC as of right now.
I was going to mention something I forgot. Oh, and the nickel defense that they run, a huge deal with this defense is that you're going to have a lot of players playing really far back. So you
Right.
need like 3 or 4 guys up front who are going to lock it down. That's why the Rams were so good last year with Aaron Donald, Leonard Floyd, and Von Miller. Now you have Aaron Donald, Sebastian Joseph Day, and Joey Bosa. So I just wanted to mention that. That's a huge add, more than we're even hyping it up.
All right, Lenny, the next team is your near and dear to your heart San Francisco 49ers and Kyle
All
Shanahan.
right. I don't know, man. I love the Niners. I honestly
Trey
do.
Lance,
But
that's all I'll say.
exactly. Exactly. It's hard to picture any team winning a Super Bowl with not a great quarterback in today's day and age. You could have whatever opinion about how good Trey Lance is, but he's not like at minimum, he's not going to be like that good. He's going to be like about as good as Jimmy G in like 2020, maybe. I don't know. At minimum, like I don't think he's going to be very good at all, but at minimum, he's not going to be that good. And when you're a team like the Niners who aren't immensely talented like they were in 2019, that's a problem. That just is. It's just a problem. An offensive line. Sorry, my voice is messed up. I was a little sick lately. An offensive line, they take a little bit of a dip from last year, which was a big strength of this team. It was just mauling people in the offensive line. I'm not like huge concern about it, but offense, obviously, they're still going to have a lot of talent, and they have Kyle Shanahan, so they're going to be fine offensively. Defensively, you add my boy Charvarius Ward, which is perfect for what DeMeco Ryans ran last year. He loves putting corners man to man on the outside for whatever reason. He loves challenging an offensive receiver to make the play, and that aggressiveness is similar to Todd Bowles, and just beat us. We're do it, go and do it.
It kind of lost both teams the Rams games last year, but
that is true. But Charvarius Ward is perfect for that kind of stick and run situation. He's a great man corner when you just want to stick it on somebody. You lose Jaquiski Tart, but that's not a huge deal. You lose K'Von Williams, which is still not great. But overall, this defense is very talented. It's still very talented. It's well coached on both sides of the ball. It's just hard when the quarterback situation isn't where it needs to be a Super Bowl contender. Like, it was a huge deal that it was like ridiculous that they even got to the NFC Championship game. I was like,
it took a lot of luck, to be fair.
It did. I mean, we scored 10 points in the NFC divisional round against the Packers. Yeah. That's the MVP. And then the freaking the Cowboys, Dak Prescott, run play at the end of the game. I mean, there was a lot that went our way to even get to that point.
And then the Rams game at the end of the year, too, the Rams completely blew it.
They did. And Jaquiski Tart.
All right, so Lenny, can you see – no, I mean the Rams game of the last week of the regular season.
Oh, yeah. No, we couldn't have not even made the playoffs, guys. Yeah. That's a huge deal.
All right, so Lenny, in your heart of hearts, can you see a scenario where Trey Lance is lifting the Lombardi Trophy at the end of the year?
Not this year. I'll say that. No, I don't. I just can't.
All right, Lenny, I'm gonna take the positive route because I'm known as the Shanahan hater.
Just go your way.
I'm going to take the positive route here. Trey Lance could be good.
Maybe in 2023. I don't know. Well,
no, but realistically, this team was a play away from winning the Super Bowl in Super Bowl 54. They were very close to winning or to getting to the Super Bowl last season, where they would have been favored over the Cincinnati Bengals. That was with horrible quarterback play in the playoffs, genuinely.
Oh, yeah, Jimmy Garoppolo.
And in 2019, Jimmy was so bad they didn't even throw. And in 2021, Jimmy was awful.
That is completely fair. No, he was really bad.
Jeff Wilson was actually decent for this team in 2020. I don't know if you remember that or not.
I do. He was pretty good.
At running back, Elijah Mitchell is still there. They have a top 2 to 3 tight ends in the NFL when healthy. I agree with the offensive line. It's worse. Laken Tomlinson is one of the more underrated players in the NFL. Alex Mack is a loss at center as well. Now they insert Jake Brendel.
I think
still have Trent Williams, though. Still have Daniel Brunskill, who's not the best. And still have your guy, Mike McGlinchey.
Yeah, my guy. Yeah.
Are you still a McGlinchey hater, by the way? Just real
I
quickly.
think I don't I still don't think he's good in pass pro like at all. But like it's gotten to the point where it's just so I put so much like energy into it. I'm just so bored with it. Like
I love
I've
your
never
receiving core. I
Oh
think
yes, I love it. I love seeing it.
Samuel is awesome. I think he's gonna play. He's awesome. Brandon Ayuk is post type sleeper season. This will be his best year of his career. I'm calling it now.
All right.
And
All right.
Jawan Jennings was pretty promising as a 3 last year too. I
Hmm.
think they're going to be a top 8 offense because they employ Kyle Shanahan, and Kyle Shanahan produces average offenses with bad talent. So this team's still really talented on this side of the ball. And honestly, Jimmy was better for the short timing stuff, but Lance gets more out of the run game and more out of the deep passing game than Jimmy did. So in that way, he is better. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
defense
I'll
is
give you
really
that.
good. Bosa, Kinlaw, who I think he'll have a better year this year.
No, Kinlaw is not good. I'm sorry. No.
I think it's
I'm
gonna happen.
not. No, don't even say that. He's
It's gonna
not
happen.
good.
Javon Kinlaw breakout
Uh,
year 2022.
are you trying to make me
No,
like
I'm
mad
kidding
about
about
it?
that. I'm kidding about that. But they have Eric Armstead, who I think is good. They have Warner Greenlaw linebacker, added Ward in the secondary. Still have Jimmy Ward. They did lose who's the other Jaquiski Tart, which kind of sucks. But
Kalen
they
Williams too.
Jason Verrett comes back, who was really good for them in 2020.
Mhm.
So the secondary is kind of hit or miss on if it's better or not, but I think the front seven's so good that there'll still be a top 10 defense.
I
So
think
I'm gonna
it's
say I think there is a scenario that this team gets a little luckier than they did in the last couple of playoff runs, and Lance maybe does hit a big throw or two because I think he has more potential to do that. He has just as much potential. He has potential to fuck it up. But Jimmy already was doing that, but he at least gives them more upside, I think. So I'll,
That's
I'll say
fair.
that. If we're going to say the Niners have more downside with Lance, then I think it's only fair to say they have more upside with him. I'm gonna take that route to doing it.
All right.
I'm going to be
I see the
positive
angle.
towards the San Francisco 49ers, which a lot of people accuse me of being a 49ers hater, but that's not even the truth. I'm not a huge Shanahan
You're
fan.
just a
But
Shanahan. You're just a Shanahan
he's still
hater.
a
That's
great
it.
coach. All right, Lenny. Next up, the Dallas Cowboys.
That team that we beat last year. Yeah, that's right.
They are currently plus 1,800 on PointsBet.
I can't do it. I just can't buy in the Cowboys right now. I just can't do it. Not when I think the Eagles are better than them at this point. The only thing I'm riding on if the Cowboys are going to be Super Bowl contenders is if Dak takes a huge step. If I'm being completely honest, Dak, as good as he is just not like that. You know, he's not that upper
He's not
echelon
special.
guy. He's not like Joe Burrow, which maybe he's a little bit unreasonable, but when the roster is where it's at right now, it's like I just on offense they lose Amari Cooper, which no one's talking about, by the way. You lost
True.
Amari Cooper and nobody's talking about it. I know CeeDee Lamb's great, but still, that's like top 15, 20th guy. You lose Love Collins, you lose Connor McGovern. You have another year with Mike McCarthy as your head coach. I mean,
Just end it right there.
anyway, this offense is going to take a very big step down for those reasons. And
Defensively,
and defensively, I think they'll be about the same. Micah Parsons is a freaking stud. Oh my gosh, I love watching him play. He's like Lawrence Taylor if he was playing in this like today's
era.
league, in this era. He's a little shorter and he's stockier like that, but man, can he get after it?
He plays that kind of position too, edge linebacker hybrid.
Yeah, it's the same kind of mold where he just kind of like has that thing where he lights his hair on fire and he just goes. Defensively, they're pretty good. I mean, like considering they're all right. They're about average, maybe below average, but it's not enough, man. It's just if they could get past the first round last year with what they had, and they took a step down on offense this year, which I think there are. Like I just can't see it. I just can't even. I
I'm
can't.
going to be honest. I think they're this high and they have this good odds because they're the Dallas Cowboys and because they're
Yes,
the
no,
most
I
popular
totally
team in
agree.
the
It's the
NFL.
star. It's the star, man.
And this usually happens, but there are years where I think it's justified. I don't think this year is a year like that. I think they're
No.
decent. They could make the playoffs. They could even win the division, but I don't think they're a Super Bowl team. They
No.
do get DeMarcus Lawrence back, who was out for most of the last year, but so that helps.
It
But
does.
you got to think Trayvon Diggs and this entire defense was very lucky with turnovers last year. With that's probably not going to happen.
It's an
And
inconsistent
like
stat
in
usually.
other stats, they weren't a great run defense last year, for example. And I haven't really seen much initiative to fix that issue. Their secondary is pretty good, but it's exploitable.
It
It's a
is.
playmaking secondary. It's not like a Legion of Boom. You can't pass the ball on us type secondary.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I love Micah Parsons. The offense, Dak Prescott, outside of a short stretch at the beginning of last year, has never really shown me that he's a complete like elite quarterback. He's a very, very good quarterback that you can win a Super Bowl with, and even partly because of, but not. I don't think he's not like Tom Brady, where if he's on your team, you're going to be a contender. I don't necessarily see him
Mm-hmm.
in that light. I think Ezekiel Elliott's regressing as we speak. I think Tony
What a hot
Pollard's pretty
take.
good, but the run game is pretty good. The offensive line is still good, but it's worse. And they're again, you mentioned it, the receiver position's worse, and that was the best element of their team
Mm-hmm.
probably. So yeah, I mean, I just think they're this high because they're the Dallas Cowboys and they still have Mike McCarthy. So
If they had a Sean McVay as a coach, this team would be a
I think
lot
they'd be a
better.
contender.
Yeah, that's kind of depressing if you're a Cowboys fan. Like, they might get Sean Payton. I don't know. We'll see. The
All right, Lenny.
Bronx.
The next team is the Denver Broncos. Give me 1 second. But yeah, take this one.
Look, as a Niners fan, Russell Wilson is a pain in the ass. Okay, I'm sorry. Russell Wilson is gonna be at minimum very good because personally I have PTSD from this. I can't accept that he won't be at least good, especially when he comes right back into my division. But on offense, right? You have your receiving core, and the Rams last year. Let me just mention this real quick, okay? The Rams last year were criticized because the receiving core wasn't great. It wasn't like a flashy receiving core. Cooper Kupp at that time was about an 800-yard receiver. Robert Woods is inconsistent. But as soon as they got that quarterback there, who's a major step up from the guy they had before, those receivers went off. Robert Woods was on track for about 1,000 yards, and freaking Cooper Kupp had the year he had. So to think that the Broncos receiving core could take that jump with that new quarterback is totally reasonable, I think. When I'm thinking about it, too, the offensive line's good enough. We've seen Russell Wilson deal with not great offensive lines already. I don't know where he went, but I guess we're just doing this now. Anyway, offensively, tight end, you lose Noah Fant. They drafted, I don't remember what his name is, but he's going to be a contributor. At running back, you have a pretty good 1-2 punch, Melvin Gordon, Javonte Williams. So offensively, I'm thinking you're pretty good. Coaching is a question mark at this point. Nathaniel Hackett literally has hack in his name. Not exactly sure how I feel about that, but I think Russell Wilson's good enough to elevate this team to at least respectable. This receiving core, like, is going to take a step up as long as they stay healthy. I'm a big fan of the Cortland Sutton connection that Russell Wilson, I think they're going to have. Cortland Sutton's a big contested catch receiver, and we just saw what happened with DK Metcalf and Russell Wilson 2 years ago, a year ago before. Russell Wilson's love throwing his moon balls, and I think it's going to be a big connection. Defensively, you take a step back. I mean, you lose Bryce Callahan. You lose Von Miller from the year before, which, I guess he technically wasn't there that season. But anyway, you also lose, which, people aren't talking about, your defensive coordinator, your head coach. What is his name, man? Anyway, I still think he was a pretty good defensive coordinator for that team. When I looked at their defense, like, it just, I don't know. It looked like schematically I was impressed with it. And when you're going to a first-year defensive coordinator who hasn't had a lot of experience with it, it's a question mark for sure. I think the coaching on this team will make or break this team. If Nathaniel Hackett is a great head coach, this is for sure a Super Bowl team. And on offense, if they get it cooking, like, Russ cooks, right? This could be a dangerous offense, man. You can see a similar jump from Jerry Jeudy with Cooper Kupp. And I'm trying to figure out things. Oh, he's back. There he is. Oh,
Sorry,
no,
as soon as
I ran out of
my computer has this weird thing where after 2 hours it decides to stop working internet-wise.
Oh my
It
God.
sucks, but I need to get a new one. But yeah.
As soon as I ran out of stuff to say, you saved my life. Yes. I just talked about a bunch of stuff.
Do you think the Broncos can win the Super Bowl, Lenny?
Yes, but it's basically, to summarize my point, it's very dependent on how these coaches adjust with the new talent and the new everything.
So it'll essentially take the best scenario possible.
Yes, but that doesn't mean that they can't still be good.
Yeah, it doesn't mean it can't happen, obviously. I pretty much agree with that. I think offensively, they're a question mark with a lot of upside. Because there's a chance Russell Wilson could just go completely 2012 Peyton Manning on us and potentially win MVP. Like, there's a real shot that happens. But there's also a shot that the Russell Wilson regression we've seen the last year or so is a real thing. So I don't know. I'm not inclined, and I'm sure as a Niners fan, you're not inclined to bet against Russell Wilson.
Oh, no. That was the first point I made.
You're not betting against Russell Wilson?
Yes, betting against Russell Wilson.
It kind of depends on how good these receivers truly are. I think Courtland Sutton's pretty good. I don't think he's like a game breaker. I think his physicality is a game breaker, though. It's a game-breaking trait. Jerry Jeudy's gotten some off-the-field issues, but we'll see what he can be with an actual quarterback. KJ Hamler can't stay on the field, but he has potential. Tim Patrick's just solid. So they've got a couple guys there who I like, but I'm not completely sure of what to make of them, if that makes sense. I think their offensive line's pretty solid. I don't think it's awesome. I think Javonte Williams is going to be really good this year, and I think Melvin Gordon's a very good number 2 guy. I like their running backs a lot, actually. Their defense will be worse because they lost Vic Fangio.
Fangio. I forgot his name. I made a point about it.
He was such a good defensive coach for this team last year and the last couple of years. And I'm also not completely sure about if they were quite as good as their stats would suggest, but they were still certainly a good defense. They added DJ Jones from your Niners. They still have Bradley Chubb. They have, Pat Surtain, potentially second-year jump. Justin Simmons, who might be the best safety in the NFL. Randy Gregory. They've got a lot of playmakers there. So I think there's a scenario in which they can get to the Super Bowl. But it's going to have to be a lot like, and I'm not completely sure if they're completely like this team or these teams have been, but like it's going to have to be like Peyton was with the Broncos, like Brady was with the Bucs, like Stafford was with the Rams. Like everything's going to have to mesh together, and they're going to have to be hot entering the playoffs and get a favorable set of matchups as well. But it can happen. I do, though, worry about the coaching staff. The first year, it may take a year for it to fully set in, but I think like 2023 season, I think they can certainly contend.
I made a point, like you were talking about the receivers, is that when Stafford went to LA, we didn't know if Robert Woods or Cooper Kupp were those guys, and as soon as
we knew they were good, we didn't know they were, we didn't know.
Yeah, as good as they performed with Stafford. So I just made that point with Russell Wilson, like we could see that.
Right, that's completely fair. And I think Wilson right now is better than I thought Stafford was a year ago.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
The Cincinnati Bengals, who are currently plus 2,000 to win the Super Bowl, I think this is low for this team.
No, I totally agree. The Cowboys over the Bengals in Super Bowl odds, that doesn't sound right. I'm sorry. That just doesn't sound right.
They got to the Super Bowl last year. We're a drive away from winning. And almost inarguably got better. I'll let you take it.
There isn't an argument, man. I mean, they don't lose really anybody this offseason except for I think their tight end. I think they lost. Exactly. I mean, like You have Jamar Chase, man, who I don't know why Madden gave him like a lower rating than Adam Thielen, by the way. Like that doesn't make any sense in my brain. But that receiving course loaded. I'm sorry. Like for the next like couple of years, this is gonna be like dynamite. And we already know about that. The biggest thing everybody was talking about, even like 2 years ago, was this offensive line. Like, I'm not gonna like drive home the point about the offense. We know how good the offense is. But the one thing everyone was talking about, this offensive line. Oh my God, it's gonna kill Joe Burrow. His career is gonna be over. Well, guess what? They just got 3 new starters who are all very good. Lyle Collins, Alex Kappa, and Ted Karras are all good to very good starters. And it's just like, I mean, like they were already great last year. Now we're just going to see consistency out of the greatness we saw last year, which is scary. I mean, like, really, that's scary, right? I mean, defensively, you have Trey Hendrickson still, which, you know, I think he impressed me. I didn't think he would be as good as a player.
He was awesome last year, really.
Yeah, he was great. He is. I don't think he's not getting as much credit as I think he should. Jesse Bates is still in the secondary. Eli Apple is Eli Apple. We don't have to talk about that guy. Defensively, they're very solid. They're just good, and that's all they need when they have such an electric offense. It's similar to how the Chiefs operated in 2019 in that bubble where they were just not a great defense, but they're clutch and they get it done when it needs to happen, and their offense is just dynamite.
They were like a good complementary defense, but not a good defense, if that makes sense.
Exactly. Yes.
I think the Bengals' defense is kind of good. I don't even think it's just a good complementary defense. Like, they were really good when you think about it in the playoffs last year.
They were very good. They were clutch, if anything, man. They were just
except for the last drive of the Rams, they were really clutch all playoffs long.
Oh, come on, that's one drive. That's
yeah. I think they have a top 5 quarterback. I think they have an awesome running back who's going to have maybe his most efficient year ever behind his a stout offensive line. Now, I'll say this: I think I don't know, but if it'll be like. I think it may take a couple years now, or not a couple years, a couple weeks for the offensive line to completely adjust to each other, because this is pretty much a completely new group. But once they adjust, it may be kind of like what we saw from the Chiefs line at the end of the year, where they're like straight up, they're really good.
I think they're going to be ballers by the end of the year.
Except I think Burrow is better with a good offensive line than Mahomes would be. I almost think Mahomes benefits more from being under pressure and evading pressure and trying to make plays. I think Burrow can sit there and take 10, but within 10-yard passes like a young Tom Brady could. They have an awesome receiving core. It's the best in football. Hayden Hurst is like, as a Falcons fan, he's fine as like a 4th or 5th option in the receiving game. Like he's big enough to win matchups and out physical people at least. He's not like a joke at tight ends, but he's obviously not the best. I think Zach Taylor is a pretty underrated offensive schemer. I think he does a good job with receiving concepts and getting his players into positions to succeed, or it was last year. And defensively, they've got like Hubbard, DJ Reader, Trey Hendrickson, Logan Wilson. They added what was the guy that's named Dax Hill, who's a versatile chess piece in the secondary. Jesse Bates.
That was an interesting pick. I remember.
A really good safety. A pretty solid corner core. Not awesome, but not bad. The defense is pretty good. Like the defense is like a top 12 defense, top 12, 15, maybe even top 10. And the offense, I think, is the best in the league. So yes, I don't know. The Bengals might be the best Super Bowl bet out there. Really? Plus 2,000?
Probably. It might be a thing with the Super Bowl hangover and that they're the Bengals.
That's the only reason I can really find for this team not being.
No, I agree. On paper and just the vibe, I don't get that. I just don't get it. Feels like they're coming back motivated to get back with Joe Burrow and his swaggy nature.
All right, from one team in the AFC North to another, the Baltimore Ravens. Lenny, is the Lamar Jackson criticism being completely overblown?
Oh my God, can we stop it? Oh, it's just so annoying, man. It's like, how much does this guy have to prove, man? Like, the resume he already has is better than like I don't know why we have to put Tua on
MVP.
this like pedestal. It's
6 win percentage, a
there
playoff
are
win
more
isn't
people
enough.
going for bat to Tua than Lamar Jackson right now. It's like,
It's
why?
ridiculous.
He won MVP unanimously. Did he not?
He's the best
With
rushing
no
quarterback
receivers.
ever.
With Marquise Brown and Mark Andrews. He won it unanimously, and his second year in the NFL. Anyway, the Baltimore Ravens upgraded their right tackle, which was a huge need, by the way. Lamar Jackson was running from his life with both tackles being out last year. They got a center who we think is going to be a stud coming out. And offensively, the only real concern I have, other than maybe overworking Mark Andrews, is this receiving core. It's just Rashad Bateman needs to step up at this point. They have Devin Duvernay as their second option. That's a problem. That's just quite simply a problem. They're going to key in, they're going to stack the box, and they're going to challenge Lamar to pass downfield because they just don't have receivers who can really consistently win on one-on-one matchups right now. Maybe we get proven wrong. I don't know. We're going to have to see. But I still think this is a very good offense as long as Greg Roman is a pretty good coordinator, which I think he's all right. I don't think he's as bad as people say. I think he offers enough running wise to elevate any stuff he has bad in like a passing offense. Anyway, defensively, man, remember when they were going to get freaking the Smith, Zadarius Smith? I was just thinking about
If they got Zadarius Smith, they'd genuinely be like awesome.
I know.
As of now, though, I think they're just pretty good to really good.
Their secondary is probably one of the best in football at this point. Linebackers are all right. Patrick Queen will maybe take another step forward. I don't know. I think he's all right. Defensive line, Calais Campbell, he's getting older, but he's still a contributor. And at edge, they added back Justin Houston, I believe, and they drafted a new guy. I mean, they have a lot of depth at defensive line, which I like. You need rotation at defensive line, but I just don't see enough star power to be like, wow, look at that defensive line. Or I think it's a pretty good defense. It's going to be a very secondary, heavily reliant team, which is what the Ravens have been for a long time. So I'm not concerned X's and O's wise either, because John Harbaugh is John Harbaugh.
Yeah, so the Ravens are a really interesting team this season because they were 8-3 last year through 12
weeks. I forgot about that. Oh my god, they went on.
Do you remember last preseason how Mitch and myself were hyping this team up into their camp? And then
so injured this
then that 1 week in the preseason they lost their entire back.
Yes.
And
that was not fair. No, you guys made a bet not knowing that the people that you were betting on weren't going to be there.
And then within the season, Lamar missed time. Marlon Humphrey got he broke something.
Peters.
Ronnie Stanley was out. Ronnie Stanley's back. The last time Ronnie Stanley was in action, and again it was 2 years ago, he was the best tackle in football. He was that good. I don't know if he'll be that good again. But still, he's going to be so much better than who they had last year. Morgan Moses is better than who did they have it last year? Villanueva, I think.
Villanueva got destroyed by Crosby last year. Oh my god, it was embarrassing.
They added Tyler Linderbaum. Kevin Zeitler discovered his old form from the Browns last year. He was pretty good.
He's all right.
So the offensive line is going to be better. Their defensive line, I think they've got, Campbell, Matabuke, who's been solid for them in the past, Michael Pierce, who's still pretty good in run defense, Owe Adafe, potentially, breakout year. Travis Jones, who they drafted, I really like. Justin Houston, still solid. They've got enough depth to be pretty good, but they don't necessarily have that one game breaker, which they may need.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a huge fan of their linebacker core, but the secondary, I think, might be the best in the league. So that helps.
It's great. It's fantastic. They
do lose Wink Martindale, but I like Mike McDonald. He's been in this system before. I agree with your Greg Roman point at offensive coordinator, but they do get back Dobbins and Edwards at running back, so I'm pretty sure the tailback spot's fine for them. They have a top 3 tight ends. It really comes down to, can Rashad Bateman be the number 1 guy on this team?
They could get OBJ.
If he is,
that is an option.
If he is, then I think they're legitimately a Super Bowl team, and I think he can be.
If they
I think
added
he has the talent.
OBJ, oh man, if they added OBJ, that
If
would
they had
actually be pretty.
OBJ, then like they're like top of the league, like at the very
They
top of the
should
league.
do that. Why? What is stopping them from doing that? Just
Someone
do it.
should sign Odell. He's way too talented to be on a not be signed. But anyways,
Someone just do that.
um, and finally, my final point with the Ravens: quarterbacks to win 70% of their games in the 21st century. Peyton Manning, he was pretty good.
He was
Tom
all right.
Brady, he's pretty good.
He's all
Patrick
right. Yeah.
Mahomes, he's pretty good.
Yeah,
And Lamar Jackson, the
I don't
highest win
know.
percentages. So, yeah, this team, I'm going to say they can win the Super Bowl just out of my want to see the Lamar doubters be proven wrong. And because I think if Bateman steps up, they have a legit shot.
Yeah, I agree. It's a little bit outside looking in at this point, but they could. I mean, they got the talent. It's just that receiving op. It's just the receivers.
Oh,
You're
yeah,
right.
final two things. John Harbaugh, awesome coach. And
Special teams won't be a problem either.
as Mitch would always say, never doubt the Ravens completely. The Indianapolis Colts, Lenny.
Wow.
Matt Ryan's new team.
I'm actually very high on the Colts, more than most.
Do you think the Colts can win the Super Bowl? Because I think
yes,
multiple.
I'm like one of the only people who will actually say that. I actually do believe they could win the Super Bowl.
All right,
we've seen the pattern. We've seen the pattern over the last couple of years. Get the quarterback, get him with a good coordinator / coach, and good team, and you got a Super Bowl team. We saw it with the Rams last year. We saw it with the Bucs. We don't know which team that could be. That could be the Commanders. That could.
It's in all likelihood either going to be the Broncos or the Colts.
Exactly. Or it could be the Panthers. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway.
They said good quarterback.
Matt Ryan isn't as bad as people want to make him out to be at this point. Like, I'm not saying that just because you're a Falcons fan. I watched a couple Falcons games last year, and I watched it. I'm like, this guy has like no help. I was like, what? Like nobody was getting open. That Patriots game was pathetic. Oh my god, it felt like he was the only good player on the team. I mean, Kyle Pitts was getting doubled. I mean, it was a whole thing. Anyway, even from last year, it's an upgrade with Michael Pittman and this great offensive line. I think Frank Reich is one of the most underrated people in the NFL. Like, not even as a coach,
like NFL figures.
People don't talk about how impactful Frank Reich has been to this team. They've had no receivers. They had a top 10 offense or a top 11 offense in passing, or it was just in general, never mind, with Phillip Rivers and an 800-yard receiver and then like a 400-yard receiver. It was like crazy. I looked at it. I'm like, what? Is that real? Did that really happen? He is very impactful. And I think Matt Ryan hasn't had as good offense coordinator here as he has with Kyle Shanahan. So defensively, they added a lot. Gus Bradley is a good, solid coordinator. He will make sure this unit plays to their ability at the very least, and it is very talented. And I think there is very much an angle where they win the Super Bowl. I can see it. I can see the angle, and I'm very high on the Colts this year. I think they're going to be a very good team. I think they easily win the division.
Yes, so in 2020, they were 9th in points per game, 9th in yards per play, and 10th in passing offense.
Phillip Rivers, guys, and they had T.Y. Hilton with like 800 yards.
Maybe this is my Falcons bias speaking, but I do think Matt Ryan right now was better than Phillip Rivers was at this point 2 years ago.
I also agree with that.
Like, I think he's so, like, the guys are already raving about how good of a leader he is. That's one thing I think he brings more than Carson Wentz does. Carson Wentz doesn't give his teammates belief. I'm just going to be honest. Matt Ryan, I think, does. His processing, his intelligence, his accuracy, they're all significant upgrades. He's a better fit for the Colts because he's not as talented necessarily as Wentz is in like physically, but he's a safer, more reliable option, and that fits their run-first style, I think, more and play action. If I think Pittman is going to break out. I saw someone on Good Morning Football say he'd be the best receiver in the NFL this year.
We're not going to say that.
Slow down a little bit.
That seems a little.
If he were like top 15, would it be shocking?
No, I don't think it would. He's the only real like super big option on the team. They're going to target him a lot. I could totally see it. They did it last year.
I like Alec Pierce, who they drafted. And watch out if he's able to stay healthy, which is the last year, is the last chance. If Paris Campbell can stay healthy, his speed is something the defenses will have a hard time stopping. They have the best running back in football. They have a top 10 offensive line, and I like Frank Reich too. I think the defense, though, is where I'm more excited about the team because I think their defense is genuinely top 5. I think their defensive line's awesome. I think DeForest Buckner is great. I think the Niners
I
miss
miss
him.
Buckner. I do
And I
miss
think
Buckner.
he's been so good for the Colts the last 2 years. Grover Stewart, they added your guy Yannick. Kwity Paye is still there. They've got a great front four. They have the best linebacker duo, probably them or the Bucs in the league with Okereke and Leonard.
Niners have a good duo, but
Niners too. And Stephon Gilmore at corner, who has also gotten literally zero talk, but he's still like a top 12 to 15 corner.
he's still
Probably
very good.
the Hall of
Yeah, no, I
Famer,
agree.
and they added him. So Kenny Moore is still
Didn't
good.
he make the Pro Bowl last year?
I don't remember if he did or not. I do know he's won a defensive
He
player.
did. I went to the Pro Bowl. I remember seeing Stephon Gilmore. He went to the Pro Bowl last year, guys. Come on.
The only real hole I see on the defense is safety, but that's not like it's not terrible. It's just not it's just average.
It's just kind of like,
And they added Gus Bradley, who I think is a defensive coordinator that while he's very stubborn and kind of stuck in his ways a little bit, I think his style does fit their personnel better than it did the Raiders or the Chargers. So I think this Colts team, I'm going to say yes, partly because I really want to see Matt Ryan win a Super Bowl and just end all this hate towards him that's unwarranted. And second, because I do think if everything goes their way, a lot like the Broncos, they have a shot. I think I can see it happening, I guess, if everything goes their way.
we've seen crazier things. I've seen crazier things.
Right. How
The
crazy
Bengals made the Super Bowl last year. I'm
How
sorry.
crazy would it be if the Philadelphia Eagles made the Super Bowl?
I think it'd be pretty crazy.
They are currently plus 2,800 on PointsBet.
This one I'm not as confident as the other ones, but I'm not entirely ruling it out. I'm like thinking about it for a second.
You're considering.
I don't think so. I'm gonna say no for right now. The reason I say that is the last time an NFC East team was in the Super Bowl was 2017 with the Eagles, and that team was absolutely stacked top to bottom.
Might be too, though.
True. I'm not gonna dish you
saying.
on that. That's true, but they did have a great offense coordinator, which they still do. I don't know. It's just hard. It's similar to
what I feel honest, about. You just don't trust Jalen Hurts. That's all you have to say.
All right, fine. I don't want to. I'm kind of like sugarcoated. I just don't trust Jalen Hurts. It's similar to the Lance situation. It's a really good roster. It's really good coaching. I'm just not like. I just with the quarterback situation. I'm just. I can't right now.
All right.
That's it. I really don't have anything.
You just want me to take this one then?
Just take it. Just take it.
Yeah. So to build off the Niners comparison, I actually think their roster, top to bottom, and you can call me crazy, is a little better than the Niners is. It's like just genuinely.
Fight you on that.
I think it is. It's a touch. I think it's a touch better and deeper. I don't think their coaching is as good, but I think their roster is probably a little better. I can also see a world where Jalen Hurts is like very good, easier than I can see Trey Lance being very good.
No, we can both agree on that. No, I can totally see Jalen Hurts way more than Lance.
I'll say this about Jalen Hurts: he made a lot of big throws last year. He was top 10 in big time throw percentage, and he is one of the best rushing quarterbacks in the NFL. And he maximizes something that they are the best in the NFL at, which is running the ball. This team is stacked. Their offensive line's the best in the league. Their defensive line's the best in the league. Their secondary is really good now. The receiving core now has A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. That's like now a really good duo. Dallas Goedert's one of the best tight ends in football.
We're expecting Jalen Reagor to take a big step.
No, I'm not. But I don't think they need him to with Smith and Brown.
No, they don't.
Their running back core is pretty, deep. They have like 3 guys who I can see plugged in and having success. The only area where they're not great outside of quarterback is linebacker. And even then,
Hers.
they added Nakobe Dean out of the draft, my boy from Georgia. So they are a little better for there. But yeah, Jalen Hurts is the key. If he's at least a solid passer, then I'm completely saying yes because I think they can. And the NFC is weak too, and they're a pretty good matchup for some of these teams because they have a great run game. They're great in both
Um,
lines, and they now have explosive weapons.
I'm just thinking about imagine Eagles Colts, bro, as a Super Bowl. That would be really weird, right?
That
I
would be
don't know.
awesome for football, just complete nerds, right?
Yeah,
For
no, that would be
wine play
total.
merchants,
Yes,
yeah.
like
Um,
oh, Nick Sirianni used to be the Frank Reich guy, and Frank Reich used to be with the Eagles. Their
I'm gonna
storyline.
say no, just because I just can't fully buy into Jalen Hurts, man. I'm gonna hold off.
It's like I want to pull the trigger, like I want
I want to
to,
do
but
it so badly, but I
I
just don't
can't.
think he has it in him.
I
Not
should have. They
this.
should have just kept Gardner Minshew, honestly.
I think Minshew would give them a better chance against some of the NFC teams because I think he's actually a better passer.
I think if you're talking about like if I want who I want to win in a shootout, hell yeah, give me Gardner Minshew. Maybe as a
Minshew has
just
no fear. That's the other thing too.
exactly. He's just like I'm just gonna air it out, which in a playoff game is very important. You need to freaking air it.
Tim Tebow once did that and won.
He did.
And finally, at
Oh.
plus 4,000 to win the Super Bowl, the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yes. Yes. Oh. Here, wait. Give me a second. Give me a second.
All right.
My foam finger. Yes.
All
Let's go
right.
Raiders.
Lenny, give me the case.
Uh, last year the Raiders' problems were that the receiving core was underwhelming, their offensive line was really bad, I'm saying offensively, and their offensive coordinator is really bad. They upgraded two of those things in the best way possible that they could have. Josh McDaniels, as long as he stays as good as I think he will be a very good coach. I hope. And Devontae Adams is the best receiver in football, arguably. And you have a trio here, a three-headed monster, and Darren Waller, Devontae Adams, and Hunter Renfrow. It's scary, man. I mean, like, it's going to be hard for any team to really shut this team down, especially their offense down, especially when you have a guy like Derek Carr at quarterback. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say Derek Carr is like the best quarterback ever, but I'm going to sit here and say Derek Carr is like the best quarterback ever. I love Derek Carr.
Go ahead.
I think he's a gunslinger, man. I just love the way he plays. I love his personality, what he offers to a team off the field and on the field. I mean, he's just great guy, great player. And offensively, we just saw a team like the Bengals succeed with a great receiving core with not a great offensive line. And it's because the coordinator worked around it. And I'm not like, I think they can do that as long as Josh McDaniels can figure it out, which I'm sure he can. This is going to work. This is going to be a really good offense, especially it could be elite, man. Like, really can. Defensively, I have a lot more questions. I mean, you lose Yannick Ngakoue, which, isn't a big deal. Chandler Jones, we don't know if he's that guy or not at this point. He's a little, I think he's a little bit like a question mark, but I still think he's going to be a contributor at the very least. Crosby's a freaking animal. Defensive line interior they got some big guys in there, but pass rush wise, it's not very good. And linebacker Denzel Perryman, is he going to fit the scheme? I'm not sure. Cornerbacks is iffy. Safeties, Jonathan Abram is still a liability. But I will say this. What's his name? How would I forget it? I love this guy, dude. The safety that Trayvon Moehrig, bro. I love this guy. He's actually very good. He's actually a lot better than people give him credit for. Last year, he had to play in a scheme that forced him to play back and not really get into coverage that often. But when he did, he was very good. And he's just so the Raiders have for a long time been this team where they just let wide open plays happen for Jonathan Abram and the lack of cornerbacks. But he was someone who made sure that didn't really happen as much last year, which is huge because that was a huge problem with the Raiders. I just had to get that out there. I really like that guy, and not a lot of people are giving him credit.
Yeah, so they bring in Patrick Graham from the Giants at defensive coordinator.
Forgot to mention that.
Who I think is an upgrade. I really like.
I agree. Patrick. No, I agree. I like Patrick Graham.
And I think Gus Bradley's a pretty solid defensive coordinator too. So that's saying something. I'm gonna lead with the defense because you led with the offense. Nate Hobbs was quietly one of the better nickel cornerbacks in the NFL
Oh,
last
how did I
year.
forget about Nate Hobbs? Oh,
Um,
my guy.
he was he has potential to be like a really good nickel corner for this team. He was last year. If he plays how he did last year, then he will be. Um, I look at the rest of the corners. I'm not completely sold. I like Anthony Everett. Um, they have the other guys though, Rakia Sin, Trayvon Mullen. I'm not completely sold on either. We'll see what happens though with the new scheme. Never completely rule out a resurgence from either. Uh, the safety position, they added Deron Harmon, who's like a kind of a veteran leadership role that which will help them because their defense is fairly young.
It
Trayvon
is.
Mulrig, I agree with you. He was pretty good last year, but I also think Jonathan Abram can be a liability at times, especially in coverage. The linebacker position, they added Jayon Brown, who I really like. I like that ad. Denzel
I,
Perryman.
dang, I forgot about John Brown. Yeah, he's a good one.
Denzel Perryman, I think, had a pretty good year last year, but I'm not sure if that was a result of scheme or that was a result of him just being a good player. We'll see
As
what
someone who
happens.
watched him, and I'm usually not like super biased about this, I think it was a mix of both. I think he put him in a
Yeah,
good
totally fair.
position to succeed, and he had a pretty good year. He was just very consistent.
Here's what makes them pretty good, though. Or not, they're not going to be a good defense, I don't think, but like it makes them good enough to win a Super Bowl. I'll say that. It's the fact that they have Crosby and Jones on the edge
Oh
because
yeah,
that
X
is
factor.
going to be such a great pass rushing duo. And because their run defense stepped up towards the end of last season, they'll have the ability to make weaker running games one dimensional offenses, and then they'll be able to tee off with Crosby and Jones against weaker tackle duos most of the time. So that I think can help. And I think matchups wise, they're kind of a tough matchup for a lot of different offenses in a weird way, even though they're not very talented. I think the
Mm.
weakness is the back end and those corners, though. The offense I ranked as the fourth best in the NFL. That might be a hot take,
I
but
ranked it as the second best.
I think. Look, you said what I said about. You said what I thought about Derek Carr. Awesome leader, awesome player, careful gambler, one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the NFL.
Careful gambler. I love
He is like
that.
he pushes. He takes enough risks, but they're not like stupid risks. If that makes sense.
It's like what people want Aaron Rodgers to do in the playoffs.
Yeah,
Like, air it out a little more.
he's aggressive, but he's not overly aggressive. He takes what the defense gives him, but he doesn't do that to too much of an extent. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
He does. He plays quarterback in the way I would like someone to play quarterback. Josh Jacobs probably going to have his best year ever, at least most efficient year ever with Josh McDaniels. The offensive line I don't think is very good, but
We can
I mean,
both agree
hey,
with that.
if they still have a good left tackle, if Leatherwood ever decides to be good at football, then
Come
they can.
on.
No, I'm okay. If Leatherwood's 30% better than last year, then they may actually be better than I expect. But as of right now, I'm not overly
I'm
high.
pretty sure he's playing guard right now. Well, from
He's
everything I've
listed at
seen, he's
right
playing guard.
tackle right now.
Uh, Okay, as a fan of the team, I'm pretty sure he's playing guard.
Okay. And then Devontae Adams, obviously, you said one of, if not the best receivers of the league. Hunter Renfrow, one of the best slot guys in the league. The third guy is interesting. Will it be Keelan Cole or Demarcus Robinson, do you think?
I haven't even thought
Who
about
gets the
that.
start?
I don't care. I'm sorry. But Robinson, because I know who the hell that guy is. I don't
Um,
care.
we'll see. But this
We'll see.
offense, they can go I and run the ball. They can go empty and pass the ball. They can play from behind. They can extend the lead. It's one of Josh McDaniels' most talented offenses probably since like 2017. So, yeah, I can see it because Mitch convinced me of this a few weeks back. If the Raiders are in positions to where they have to win shootouts, they can do it because they have such a good offense. And because I can see Derek Carr winning a bunch of close games and their pass rush duo is so good.
They did it last year. I mean, and they upgraded at those specific positions where they need to win in a shootout.
So, look, I
Receiver
think
and edge rush. Yeah,
Super Bowl is aggressive, but you never know.
it is aggressive, but Raiders homer here. It's all right.
So you're gonna say yes then?
Yes.
All
I
right.
mean, I don't care. I don't actually think that we probably fine. I pictured it in my brain
You pictured
that
it in
the
your
Raiders.
brain now.
I'm sure I had like a dream about it at some point in my
All right,
life.
guys. Thank you for watching this episode of the Lay Down Podcast. Make sure to go check out Lenny's channel. He's working on some stuff about Jim Thorpe that is, I'm sure,
Yes.
coming soon. If you can tell them
It's
about
coming
that.
at some point.
Do you have like a time for
Oh, do I
table?
have something to say? Okay, well, it takes me about a minute. It takes me about an hour a day to make a minute, and it's gonna take about 30 more to 40 more minutes, if that makes sense, to where this is done. So if you're like expecting it somewhere between August and September, probably late August if it's in August.
So projected as
Uh,
August 30th right now.
no, I'm not putting a date on this. That would stress me out so
I'm,
bad. Are you kidding me?
it's fine.
I'd
It's
have
fine.
somewhere in that range. I'd assume it'll be out.
All right. All right, guys. Thank you for watching this episode of the Lay Down Podcasts. And have a great day. God bless.